What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 74 of Ghost in the Night, a Hauntings and Paranormal podcast. I'm Phil Sims. Thank you for checking out the podcast today. Today, we're going to talk about Paranormal Attraction, and to do that, I brought in Ben Axt. He is the host of Paranormal Axetivities, a new podcast, so check it out. Ghost in the Night with Phil Sims. All right, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Ghost of the Night. Today, we have a very special guest. We have podcast host Ben Axt, who has a new podcast that's out, has a couple episodes, I believe 4 out, and we're going to talk to him about that. And the name of the podcast is Paranormal Activity. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm loving this quarantine life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Can't beat it.
Yeah, we're going stir crazy here. You know, I'm lucky I can get out a little bit with my job. I still get to go to work every day. but having kids here 24 hours a day, they're getting a little restless.
No, that's fair. I was actually self-quarantined for 2 weeks because my work had it. And I went back on Thursday for the first time, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Now, you have 4 episodes out, correct? Or is it 5 now?
4 episodes. Well, I'm doing the 5th one tomorrow. As of right now, 4.
Okay, this will probably come out on Thursday. So when do your episodes air generally?
Typically, they come out on Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on how the editing goes.
Okay, so there might be one out before this episode's air, so maybe possibly 5. Now, in your last episode, I caught because I subscribed, and we started to get to know one another on Twitter, and it's always nice to meet a fellow Ohioan podcaster.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and surprisingly, there's a lot of us actually.
I noticed that there's a lot of Paranormal Ohio names and a lot of like Cincinnati and Columbus.
Right.
Investigating, sounds like.
And the one reason I wanted to have you on, because in your last episode, you had something happen during the recording, and you left it in naturally. Now, I couldn't hear it very well because when I listened to your episode, I had my crappy headphones in. I was listening to it in the car. But something happened at, I believe, like the 14-minute mark. And I have been wanting to do an episode on this topic, just for the mere fact, I personally believe that just talking about the paranormal activity or talking about supernatural stuff, it can stimulate activity, and things start happening just by thinking about it, by mentioning it. And so being a podcaster, I know I've had things happen during my recording, and you caught yours on tape, and I wanted to have you on and talk about that, and talk about that theory of just mentioning it and being in this world kind of sparks the activity. But before we get to that, what got you into the paranormal?
But absolutely. I've pretty much been into the paranormal and ghost thing since I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I grew up in a haunted house. It was built by my grandparents, and my dad grew up there, then I grew up there. And my sisters and I, growing up, always heard noises and felt presence and that kind of stuff. So that got me into like the paranormal. Mm-hmm. I've always been into it, and as I've gotten older, I've seen more things and really have dug into it. And then there was a couple-year period where I kind of blocked it out. Right. And just kind of forgot about it. And then in 2014, I lived in a different haunted house that really got me into it. And since then, I just been interested in it. And I think there's something out there, and that's pretty much it. Right.
Now, do you feel some of this activity is related? Do you think maybe it's followed you, or you think these are separate cases?
I think they're separate cases. I do believe I'm sensitive to that side of things. I think some people are sensitive, some people are not.
Right.
And I do believe I'm sensitive, but I don't think I'm being followed. I think it's all, for the most part, separate. Mm-hmm. And I just happen to be able to be sensitive to it, and that's why I've had more experiences than a lot of other people, but less experiences than other people that I know. So sensitive to it, but not followed.
Right. Now, do you go out? I know in that episode where you had this situation or this activity spark up, you were talking about Moonville Tunnel and going there and doing a little investigation. Are you a member of a team? Do you go out and actively investigate?
I do. I've been to several places. I've never really actually investigated. I never brought like recordings or K2s or anything like that. I've been to like Waverly Hills, Mansfield, Reformatory, Moonville Tunnel. So I'd like to go check that out, like, especially like abandoned places and old places. I like history as well, so I do like to explore things. But I'm just now kind of getting more into the investigative side of it. So going forward, I'm probably going to start doing that more as a ghost hunting thing rather than just a historic tour. But
yeah, I mean, I started going on investigation and actually joined a team just for the mere fact because I was doing the podcast. I wanted to start this podcast and started doing it and like you, I've pretty much had experiences. Just about every house I've had since birth, I guess, has had some sort of activity, except for the one I recently moved, the one I live in now. Not much is going on, but I'm starting to think things are picking up naturally with me. And this plays into what I want to talk about. You know, me doing the podcast out of the house, me actually looking at evidence and going over the footage, things might start, or seem like they might start popping off here at any point. And it's not that I think I've brought anything with me or anything's attached to me. I just think when you talk about the paranormal, when you are thinking about it and you are actively in the field, it's almost like you're a beacon or you're a magnet to that activity, and things start coming to you just because they know you're interested in it. And I think people that are sensitive, like yourself and some of the others, they are sensitive because they are open to it.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I mean, that's kind of what's happening here. I decided I wanted to start doing this podcast back in like October of 2019. And before that, in this house, we had no activity at all. We lived here for just about a year at that point with nothing.
Right.
I wanted to start this show, and boom, almost immediately things started happening. And then, 4 episodes then, I'm here knocking on my wall. So that's absolutely a real thing. And talking about, even thinking about it or wanting to pursue it, definitely opens you up and makes you a beacon.
Right. Now let's get into this episode. I believe, like I said, it was your 4th episode. Kind of give us a summary of the episode and walk us through. You don't have to do minute by minute, but what were you, tell the listeners what you were talking about and then what happened at that 14 minute mark or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Just start the show like I typically do. I have my setup out in my garage. I always have my equipment out here. I just plug it in and it loads up. And that day in particular, I've been doing podcasting for a couple of years now. I do another wrestling show with a buddy, so I'm very familiar with all of this equipment and how it works. And for whatever reason, that day, when I just first plugged everything in, nothing was working right. It wasn't charging the right way. My audio didn't sound right. Whatever. Didn't really think much of it. I got rolling. I started talking. I introduced the show. Again, it's still pretty early on, so I just kind of, playing around. So basically, I just introduced the show. I told like a little ghost story, I believe, that I've kind of been doing here. And then I introduced Moonville, which is an old town in Ohio you're familiar with. I introduced what Moonville was. And then as I started talking about my personal experience there, like immediately, I went from telling the facts of the town to my personal experience. And as I started transitioning into that, I hear it banging on my wall. And it was a 3 knock, like a knock, knock, knock. And it happens to be right where the outlet is that I've been charging my equipment with, which is kind of a weird coincidence, I thought. But I heard it as I'm recording, so I pause, I look at the wall, and I sit there for a minute, and then I hear it again, same 3 knocks, and this time it's a little bit louder. And then my stomach kind of dropped a little bit. I mean, this was in the middle of the day, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was sunny outside. And I was like, holy crap. So that was unique. And then after the episode was over, I went in, and my wife was in the living room. She's like, I heard the noise, but I thought you did it. I'm like, well, no, I thought you did it. So
yeah. And is it that outlet or whatever is on the, since you were in the garage, is it on the outside wall? Could there have been, kids did you investigate, try to debunk it in any way?
Yes, I absolutely did. It's actually on the wall that is facing my garage is connected to my house. Mm-hmm. On the inside wall, on the other side of this wall is our laundry room, which is also where our heater and air conditioner unit is. Right. And so that unit was turned off. We had no air on that day, so it was nice outside. And our washing machine was not running, so there was nothing in that room that could have caused the knock.
Right.
I actually had my wife come in and knock on the wall while I was in the garage to see what it sounded like. And that's exactly what it sounded like. It sounded like somebody was on the other side of the wall in the laundry room, just tapping on the wall.
Right. Now, your area that you live in, like I said, we're both from Ohio. You're actually, through talking with you, you're only, 20 minutes away from me, probably.
Oh, absolutely.
If that.
Very close.
Now, in that area, is there any kind of knowledge of activity or anything that's close by that could be, show some or give you some reasoning for it? Is there a lot of activity in that area? And I've never actually investigated it in that town, and I haven't heard of anything, but is there kind of a history of activity?
And as far as I know, with this town in particular, no. I mean, there's a few cemeteries and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But as far as I know, there's really not a whole lot of paranormal activity in Franklin, Ohio. There's no major ghost stories here or anything. However, my wife did talk to my my father-in-law, which is her stepfather, and we actually rent from him. He's our landlord. Mm-hmm. And the person who used to live in this house passed away last year.
Really?
Yeah, I just learned this past couple of days just talking to him. And so he mentioned that she passed away. She was older, and I guess she was a big smoker. And when she lived here, she smoked, and they had like a relationship at one point in time. And he said that not too long ago, he woke up in his house to the smell of smoke. And he's not a smoker. He lives alone, so there's no reason for that to happen. And so we think possibly maybe since she's passed, she's kind of hanging out here, maybe hanging out at his house, maybe. I mean, that kind of stuff. Like I said in my show before, I don't really believe in like haunted houses per se. I think spirits can travel if they choose to, or if they they're dead, or we have a conversation. But that's a possibility. Maybe it was her because she used to live here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big proponent of haunted houses, or I shouldn't say that, but I don't think it's necessarily the house. I think if anything, it could be a thin spot in between our world, their world, whatever. But I also have this thought that it's all around us. When we go to that, when we pass on and go to that next realm, for lack of a better word, we're not going somewhere. We're still here. We're just in a different, whether it be dimension, whatever verbiage you want to use. So they're always still around us, and we are actually interacting with that at all times. We just don't realize it because we're not vibrating, or we don't see in that frequency, and we can't actually see that. But I think it's all around us. So a haunted house per se is not the old creepy house at the end of the drive or anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, there's several reasons that you can say houses aren't haunted, people are haunted, or spirits are roaming, or there's different levels of frequency, like you said. But at the same time, that can be argued because if that's the case, why are there spirits at Waverly Hills, for example? That's such a depressing, hurtful place. Why would they choose to stay there? But I don't have all the answers, but but right, I absolutely agree with that.
Well, places like Waverly and places, you hear of all the, especially if you watch a lot of the paranormal reality shows, they're always going to hospitals, jails, battlefields, those type situations. Now, my theory is that these places aren't necessarily intelligent hauntings. I'm more of a residual type haunting guy with these places, just for the mere fact that all these places have one thing in common, and that's tragedy, that's high emotion, and that I think that imprints. Now in that aspect, okay, it could be a haunted type location, but I don't think those are necessarily always intelligent hauntings. Whenever you have a sudden death or torture or anything like that, that imprints on that atmosphere, I believe. And that's why so many people say cemeteries are haunted. But I've said this on my show a million times. When I die, if you find me you're definitely going to find me at a cemetery, because why would I hang out there? It's more of that energy of the people that are living left there during that ceremony.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing I can really argue with that. That's definitely how I feel about it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's why battlefields are so, just the sheer amount of torture and pain that was suffered in that environment has to imprint on that environment or that atmosphere.
It's like negative energy, right? Sure, exactly. Positive energy and negative energy. And there's a lot of pain and suffering that would create a lot of negative energy. So it makes sense in that aspect.
Right. Now, this episode, when you, and I want to ask you this: when something like that happens during your recording, how did you it just during listening to the episode, you just mentioned it, you marked it, you made a mental or a verbal note of it on during your episode, and you just kind of continued on. Now, did you kind of stop right there and did it freak you out a little bit, or did you just keep rolling? And did you make any edits there, or?
I made no edits, and I made no edits for a reason. I wanted it to be like real and sound real. Like when I'm doing this show, I don't want to like edit it out and add sounds and do anything.
Right.
I like to be as real as possible. And it did freak me out a little bit. Like it threw me off. But again, it was the middle of the day, so I didn't think, oh my God, there's a ghost here. I was like, oh, that was weird. And the rest of the episode, it did kind of throw me off. I had other points I wanted to make that I did not make. I kind of rushed the rest of the episode.
Right.
I wanted to kind of look more into that. But yeah, I kept it rolling, and I kind of forgot about it as I went on towards the very end, but it also definitely threw me off.
Right.
But if it's all nothing edited, it's all right there.
Right.
And then afterwards, I went in and kind of investigated it and tried to figure out where it came from, other than it being a ghost or a spirit or whatever.
Right. Now, when you were listening, when you were doing whatever editing you do to your podcast episodes, did you kind of hear, because a lot of times with activities such as that, with knocks and bangs and things like that, you could possibly catch an EVP, or you could hear something that on the recording that you didn't necessarily hear at the time. Did you catch anything like that on your recording when you went through it?
I did not. I was hoping I did. And actually, when I do record, because of this whole talking about ghosts can make things happen, I totally believe in that. So each episode I record, I have a K2 EMF meter. I'm not sure how reliable that is, but I have it on just in case anything happens.
Right.
And during that time, nothing lit up. I went back and listened to the audio. Nothing other than that knock happened. And the rest of the show recorded without issue. So on my end, as of right now, on my end, there was just the knocks, and that was it.
Right. Now, what do you think causes this? How much activity do you have or have you noticed in that house when you weren't, say, actually actively recording or discussing or thinking about the paranormal? Have you had any activity that you know of happen during those times, just standard, regular eating dinner or whatever?
Yep, absolutely. And there's actually a couple that I can go through. And I moved into this house in December of 2018. Mm-hmm. So from 2018 to October 2019, nothing. I had no feeling in my guts or nothing like that. And then I told my wife, who is also very sensitive to the other side. We've had a lot of experiences in the past. I told her, I think I want to start doing, a paranormal podcast. I'm kind of getting into it. I want to do something else with my time. And then almost immediately, stuff started happening.
Right.
We started hearing noises like, wood floor, everything. Your typical wood floor noises we would hear. But then it turned into more than that. There'd just be like, I'd walk up the stairs, I'd turn the hallway, and I'd hear a creak at the bottom of the steps, like somebody else was walking behind me.
Really?
And it was more than just your typical, house resting or whatever they say.
Right.
And then at one point, I remember we went to a Halloween party the first weekend of November, and we were listening to a different podcast about I forget the person's name, but basically her story was that she can see demons and spirits around people and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's probably bullshit. I don't really believe in that kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I said that openly, and almost immediately I got a headache, and that headache lasted a week.
Really?
And it was it felt like a dehydration headache. I drink water all the time, so there's no that's what it was. It was just weird. Obviously I didn't see a ghost, but I felt different for a week. And then I told whatever I could feel lingering over me to, get the F out basically. Yeah. And it lifted. So that happened. And there's a few other things. But one thing I really remember here too was not that long ago when I started kind of getting this podcast more ready to roll, kind of setting up a routine with it and that kind of stuff. So it happened that morning I was talking about it. And then that afternoon, my wife and I were playing Monopoly actually at our bar in our kitchen. So we sat there for about 3 hours, not talking about ghosts, not talking about anything, just doing that game. The game ended, again, about 3 hours. I got up, I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator. As soon as I sat back down at the bar, our kitchen sink turned on.
Really?
And the knobs didn't turn at all, but the water started coming out of the faucet half pressure, basically. It was more than just a drip or a leak. It was just a half pressure faucet turned on. So I looked at it, and then she looked at it, and then about 5 seconds went by, and she turned to me, and she was like, I told you during this podcast to start, bringing something to this house. Like, she was kind of mad because she's been saying it since I started talking about it. That's going to bring forces into this household. Right. So I got up, I walked to the sink. I thought, there's no way this is happening right now. I mean, I was completely sober. That's my first beer of the night because it's, just got later that evening. I walked to the sink. As soon as I reached to the knob to mess with it, it turned off by itself.
Yeah. I've always believed that the difference between sensitive people or empaths or whatever is just they're open to it. And when a spirit or whatever it is sees that you're open, it attracts. It's like a moth to a flame. They're looking for, I don't want to say they're needy, but they're looking for that interaction, that acknowledgement. And when they see that you react to something they do, naturally they're going to gravitate toward a person that can hopefully see them and get some interaction with. So whenever you start talking about it or showing signs that you have an interest, naturally I think they just gravitate toward you.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And like my wife, like I said, she's very sensitive. And I was like, well, why is this happening? And she was like, we can talk to him. He wants us to talk to him. It's like, well, can I try talking to him? And she was like, no. So, but
yeah, I mean, that's kind of a personal preference thing. I've always, the general rule is you never ghost hunt in your own house. Of course, I don't personally believe all that myself. Because I'm big fear-based. If you fear it, they're going to magnify it, and that fear can actually maybe attract something a little bit darker, or just something a little bit darker. So, I'm kind of more of an open person. If I see something going on in my house, I'm going to kind of investigate it, because you have to know what you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And that makes perfect sense. And that's what she says. I'm kind of like you. Like, well, I'm here. This is where my setup is. This is where I have my best audio equipment. I want it to happen here so I can talk to it here.
Right.
She disagrees with that. So, but yeah, then actually shortly after that, we got a leak in that same sink. Probably about a week or two later, I woke up. We had like a little pond in our kitchen because one of the pipes under the sink burst. So.
All right. Now, have you, since you know that the previous tenant passed away, do you have any kind of information on her? Have you actually tried to maybe reach out and try to talk to her directly to kind of see if it is her?
No, sir. And I just found out about her passing and her being living here in the past. So we have not as of now. That may change.
Right.
We'll see. But as of right now, no. There's been no contact, really no investigating beyond that. It's one of those things, sometimes ignorance is bliss as well. So.
Right. I mean, does your wife or anybody feel like a negative presence, or are you or her scared, or is it more of just a annoyance type thing that's going on right now?
It's funny you bring that up. I know the story that kind of hits that. So up until recently, I felt really no negative energy. Some like odd, I guess. But then with her, same thing. But then about two weeks ago, and actually I can tell you, it was the day after we had a quarantine because of this virus going around. Mm-hmm. But she woke me up around 3 a.m. or 2:30, whatever it was. And she's never done this before. We've been married for 2 years, and I've been married for 5 years. She has never once woken me up in the middle of the night because she was scared. Like, we're on our 30s, that just doesn't happen. But she woke me up, and she was like, hey, I'm scared. She just basically said that, I'm scared. I'm like, what are you scared of? She's like, there's something downstairs. I'm like, what do you mean there's something downstairs? And she told me that she had been awake for a couple hours now. She just woke up and couldn't fall back to sleep. So she went downstairs to get something to eat or whatever. And she just felt, as she walked down the stairs, she could feel a negative presence at the bottom of the staircase, like in the hallway between her staircase and her front door. And she said, as she walked down there, she openly said, I'm not going to be afraid in my own house. And as she walked down the stairs and turned, she felt that thing like lunge at her. She didn't feel any contact. There was no physical contact at all. But she could feel it there. She could feel it lunging at her. She went to the kitchen, grabbed her food or whatever, and then just sort of got scared and came back upstairs and got back in bed, leaving her phone downstairs, actually. Mm-hmm. So she woke me up, told me that, and then so I came downstairs. And I felt something, but at the same time, it's hard to say whether I actually felt it or she put it in my brain, and now I'm freaking myself out. Hard to really say. But I told it whatever it was to leave, and I came back upstairs, and that's pretty much the end of that story. But yeah, that just happened a couple of weeks ago.
Really? Yeah, I mean, that's something you have to rely on yourself and her. You know, your gut instinct is really probably your best bet, really. If you feel something's darker, then it might be. I mean, you can have all the equipment in the world, and honestly, your personal, how you feel is really the best gauge of where you're at and what's going on.
Absolutely. Like, I call my wife a human spirit box because, I mean, she's very in tune and very into that, or not into it, but she can feel it. So whatever she tells me, I believe over any kind of technology that's out there.
Yeah, that's I've always said you're really the only thing you need to go to investigate is a recorder, flashlight, and yourself, and that's it.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can have all these fancy high-tech cameras. I mean, a camera would be nice just to kind of get a visual documentation, but it's not a necessity. But all these other fancy things are just really ways to prove or just ways to validate what you are personally experiencing. So, I mean, your own body is really the best gauge or the best piece of best instrument you can have on an investigation.
Absolutely agree with that. I mean, again, I could have all of the EMF readers and, you know, recorders or whatever, but at the end of the day, my instinct, especially my wife's instinct, that's what we're going to base whether it's evil or not evil, if we should go in there or not go in there. You know, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, my best advice would be you really need, with the activity that's going on, that seems to be going on and maybe even escalating a little bit, you're definitely going to, when you record, have to listen back and keep a close ear out for some possible EVPs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we actually started doing that. We got into saging here lately just because of all of the weird things that have been happening, especially this past couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, we've been doing that. And we saged the house. And the first time I saged, which was I think last week, I listened back and didn't hear anything. But then I got another story here for you regarding the saging, actually.
Okay.
My wife has a good friend that she works with. And on Thursday, my wife's friend told her that she thinks her house is haunted, which is kind of random because this is totally separate from like this podcast and stuff. Like, she knows about it, but like that's pretty much it. But she was telling my wife how she thinks her house is haunted, and she told my wife some of the stories. Like, she was in her kitchen and saw something. She was in her living room and saw something, and that kind of stuff. So my wife went to her house and tried to sage her house as well, just to kind of make her feel better and get that with negative energy, kind of push it out. And she called me and she's like, "Hey, can you come over here?" And she was like 10 minutes away. So I said, sure. And we went there and we saged the house. But her husband was kind of blocked. He had like a block on himself. He wasn't really into it. And we kind of tell that. And so I don't think it worked all that well, but we did all that kind of stuff. And then we came back home, came inside, and we were talking about it. And as soon as my wife was like, he had a block up, there's no way it worked. As soon as she said that, our lights flickered 3 times. Kind of like my knocking was 3 times, our lights flickered 3 times. Mm-hmm. And again, I've never seen our lights flicker before. It was here for over a year now. I've never ever once seen that. It was kind of windy that day, so it's possible that's what it was.
Right.
But, never seen them flicker before. So it flickered. Because of the flickering, we decided to sage our house. And as I was saging, I swear to God, I heard whispering the entire time.
Really?
Well, and what's crazy about that was I was recording it like we discussed. I want to go back and listen to them. And I just kept hearing fucking whispering. When I was upstairs, I could hear it. It sounded like there was somebody in the other room just whispering to each other. I can't make out the words, but it kept happening. It's like, what the fuck? Right. So I finally did it. We finished the house. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it. Recording was not there. How somehow it stopped recording or didn't save the recording, I don't know, but it wasn't there. So then we resaged the house just in case. My wife led it this time, and we listened back, and nothing was on the recording. But the one where I heard the whispering did not save.
Really?
I'm not sure what that was about.
Yeah, because every time I record anything not here lately, but the whole time, I've really had to go back and listen and this kind of goes back to, talking about it kind of brings things up. I did an episode where I did like a 3-part episode about demons. And one of the episodes was an actual interview with an exorcist. And in that episode, as I was editing it, just going through it, cleaning it up a little bit, I basically heard like it was the most evil demonic thing I've ever heard in my life. And, I didn't hear it at the time. I immediately called the guy again and said, hey, I knew his wife was there. I timestamped it and sent it to him. And I said, was this somebody at your house or whatever? And he said, no, that wasn't. My wife was in the other room. He didn't hear it, but there was just something there. And it's just weird that, we are talking about some, possession and demons, and that's what we get. And I sent it to a buddy of mine to listen to it and let me know what he thinks and run it through some filters. And it was just the weirdest thing. And it was just so coincidental. I've had EVPs before that I couldn't really, say they were EVPs and couldn't make out what they're saying, but this was, it was evil. We were talking about something evil, and it sounded. I'm not a big demon guy. I'm more of an evil type entity type person, and this was. It sent shivers down my spine when I heard it when I was editing it.
I can imagine. That sounds horrifying.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so bad if I picked something up like that talking to you. I would say, "Ooh, that's weird," but being the subject matter we were talking about, and that's what I picked up, I was like, ooh, it made me actually rethink what I was doing. Almost.
Oh, yeah. That's fair. I never heard like any evil EVPs that I created, so that probably scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I've been on investigations and gotten like Satan on the ghost box or in EVPs, and that didn't do anything to me, and I was actually investigating. I almost found it more amusing that, whatever it was trying to scare me. But to where this was actually, I was like, whoa, now we might be getting into something that I don't want to get into right now.
That's fair. Were you in your house when that happened?
Yes, I was in my old house. I moved in July of last year. Gotcha. It was my old house, and this was a house that had activity. The house I live in now is, kind of questioning there might be something coming in. But every other house up to that point, I've always had activity in just about probably 9 out of the 10 places I lived. And that house, I'd been grabbed. I remember I think I shared this story on an episode once, but went to bed and I lay on my right side, and I just laid down, rolled on my right side, and something pulled me back to my back. And I was like, whoa. I was like, come on. And it was that at that location, at that home, it was just more of an annoyance. I was like, come on now, I'm trying to get some sleep kind of thing. That's how common it was, doors opening and closing, dogs kind of acting weird, staring down the hallway, and, just some weird general noises. You could hear footsteps, but I never really felt scared. I wasn't afraid to, if I got up in the middle of the night, I didn't have to turn on lights because I was scared. It just wasn't that kind of energy that I felt in that location. But
I understand, absolutely.
But this was something different. It was a feeling that I never had. And I honestly, actually, as I thought about it and, sent the episode out, I was like, I think it was on his end, honestly. If anything, he had the attachment or something was pissed off at him.
I can believe that, absolutely. I mean, especially if that's what he's into, if he's interested, it's going to be attached to him, and therefore, no matter what he's doing, it's going to be there. So you definitely pick it up on your end, but it's not attacking you, so that's good. Right.
Well, we're getting close on time here, so before we get off here, why don't you kind of tell us your vision, what you want this podcast of yours to be, and what direction you're going to take it in?
Absolutely. So again, it's still pretty new. We're 4 episodes in, maybe 5 by the time this airs. But basically, I just want to, one, kind of track the experiences that I'm having in my house now. My wife, again, being sensitive, I want to track what we're doing and kind of see what happens going forward and catch all that and share it to the world. Because the one thing I do want to kind of show is that, this stuff isn't fake. A lot of people think it's fake. A lot of people aren't open to it. Right. And the best way to not prove that it's real, but just to make it more of not a lot of astigmatism, I guess.
Right.
But to make it it's real, it's here. And also I want to keep learning. Like, I like to think that I know everything's going on, and I'm not really scared of my house, whether I feel it's evil or not, because I feel like I know everything. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's wrong. I probably don't know anything. So I want to keep learning. I want to meet people like yourself, hear your experiences, hear other experiences, and between taking all of these stories and all this knowledge, kind of put them together, and with that, make it a whole picture of what's going on between our world, the other side, what the other side is, how it goes to work, why some are stuck, why some are not stuck, that kind of stuff. So really don't have any real like end game. I just want to keep it moving forward and learning more things about the paranormal, basically.
Now, you mentioned you have another podcast. Why don't you tell us about that?
Absolutely. We have a podcast. It's called Regularly Scheduled Hostilities. It's all about pro wrestling, WWE, AEW, that kind of stuff. I host it with my buddy Josh DeBoard. We're on Twitter at RSH Wrestling, and you can follow me at Ben Lovin, which is kind of an embarrassing name, but I've had it since I was in high school. So,
Yeah.
but yes, and I forget what his actual personal Twitter handle is off the top of my head. But yeah, you can follow us. We're on Facebook as well at Regularly Scheduled Hostilities on the platforms of both Paranormal Activities and RSH. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, basically all your favorite typical podcasting platforms.
Sounds good. Now, your other podcast, Professional Wrestling, are you still a big wrestling fan, I take it?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I've been watching wrestling since I was 10 or 11 years old. We watch every week. We do this show every Thursday, and it's uploaded every Thursday as well.
I mean, there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. I enjoyed it I'm probably much older than you, of course. I quit watching, after the Attitude Era ended. I can't get into the new stuff.
That's fair.
When they cleaned,
I get it. I love the Attitude Era, but I get it.
When they cleaned it up a little, it kind of took it away from me.
That's fair. The PG era, that's what they call it now. The PG era.
Yeah, but I always said it was probably the most entertaining drama you could ever see, because you get a little violence and you get a good storyline.
Absolutely. I mean, it's anything you want. It's just, it's scripted and people say it's fake. Every TV show you watch is fake, so why not enjoy it for what it is? And big props to them with this whole virus thing going on. They're still doing live shows with no audience. So you can imagine how different that is.
Yeah, because actually, I just listened to a podcast. I forget what podcast I was listening to, but they just did a thing on Chris Benoit. They're talking about what happened there in his career, and which they really covered a lot of his early career, but it was more about what happened. But I was really impressed with, we got to learn some stuff that I didn't know about him.
Absolutely. It's a very interesting time. I mean, I think it was Dark Side of the Ring on YouTube is what I watched recently about that same topic.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I really want to like Chris Benoit at the same time. His actions are pretty bad. So we talked about that a little bit on our podcast, actually, not too long ago because of the documentary. Yeah,
well, I would strongly advise everybody to check out both podcasts, actually.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. Again, every Thursday, RSH will be out there, and every Sunday, Paranormal Activities.
All righty. Well, that is going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, even though it can't be too busy because we're all locked in the freaking house.
That's fair. I appreciate you having me on the show. I really appreciate it. It was a great time.
No problem whatsoever. And keep in touch. Let me know if anything pops off there. And maybe once we get out of this quarantine, if you're interested, we'll when I go out on an investigation, maybe we do some local stuff here. We'll see if you want to go.
Absolutely. I would love that. I've never gone on an official paranormal investigation before, so I would love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some good places around here, not too far away. We do. I think where I was actually supposed to go a couple of weeks ago to Tennessee, but naturally that got canceled. But down in Kentucky, hour and a half away is you get some good places or good locations that we've had a lot of luck at. So I will let you know when we go, and maybe we can set something up.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you once again for coming on. Everybody go check out Paranormal Activities. If you follow me on Twitter, I will be plugging the shit out of it. So once again, thank you, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Now, the question I brought up was, can you actually attract the paranormal just by doing, i.e. this podcast? I think the answer is yes. Now, whether that's opening a door or that's just you opening yourself up is the question. If you have an opinion, be sure to send me an email at gitmpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @night_ghost. So until next week, take care, everybody.